taken the lead. You can turn this tide. Shut the enemy down. Zone A captured. Zone advantage is yours. A well-fought victory. Three opponents down. Fantastic work. Fought like a titan of the first pillar.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video we're going to discuss this brand new exotic hand cannon, and it's called the Malfeasance. Right off the bat, I gotta give a huge thank you and a massive shout out to my very good friend Shishi for letting me use his account. And so for those of you who are in the same boat that I am, where we haven't quite gotten the Malfeasance, what you guys gotta do is you gotta play a lot of Gambit. And eventually RNG will be kind enough to actually drop an Ascendant Primal Servitor, and when that happens, you'll then be able to defeat that boss and start the questline itself. The questline will be called Seething Heart, and once you actually get it to be obtained, you have to go see Drifter in the tower and then defeat 25 Taken bosses or mini bosses in the Dreaming City. As soon as that is done, you have to complete the Corrupted quest, deposit up to 500 motes in Gambit, and then invade the enemy team to defeat approximately 25 Guardians. Once this is all concluded, you'll have your last step, and that's to once again invade the enemy team, but in this case, you have to be able to kill all 4 Guardians in one fell swoop. And once that's done, you'll finally have the Malfeasance, and man do I gotta say that this thing just looks so unbelievably sexy and has this fantastic Taken ornament, but now the question remains is to how powerful that this thing really is in PvP. This is exactly what we're going to look at, and so this is going to pertain to everything and anything from the weapon's base stats to the weapon's TTKs, as well as the weapon's perks, and most importantly, one in particular perk that I cannot wait to tell you guys about, and that's called Explosive Shadow. To find out exactly what that perk does, the only thing left to do is to eviscerate that bell icon, and let's jump right into the video. Before we can even begin to discuss this amazing perk called Explosive Shadow, what you guys have got to understand first is how this thing stacks up against the competition, as weapons like the Trust Hand Cannon along with the Luna's Howl Hand Cannon are actually in the exact same archetype as the Malfeasance and have a rate of fire at 180 rounds per minute. Knowing this, you probably already noticed that the Malfeasance is doing 57 points of damage in the head and 39 points of damage in the body. Now if we were to then go ahead and associate these two things to an optimal headshot time to kill and a body shot time to kill respectively, the weapon's optimal headshot TTK is going to be at exactly 1 second on the dot, and it's going to require 3 critical headshots and 1 body shot to attain this. Looking solely at body shots and body shots alone, the weapon's body shot time to kill is going to be at 1.67 seconds, and that's then going to associate to 6 body shots. Averaging these two things together by taking 1.0 and 1.67 and dividing by 2, the overall average time to kill is going to be at 1.33 seconds, and to be honest with you, that's not too shabby. Keep in mind that all the information that you guys are seeing right there on your screen is with a Guardian that has 201 points of health, which is equivalent to exactly 10 resilience. Is every single Guardian in Destiny going to run 10 resilience? The answer is a clear no. And so nevertheless, I wanted to take the worst case scenario so that you guys know no matter what, this thing is still going to need 4 critical headshots and 6 body shots to attain the weapon's optimal TTK and body shot TTK respectively. Now that you guys understand the weapon's base lethality, the very next thing that we get to discuss is this amazing and phenomenal and absolutely incredible perk called Explosive Shadow. Explosive Shadow states that this weapon shoots tainted slugs that burrow into enemies, and that stacking enough slugs causes them to explode. When I first read about this perk, I was unbelievably excited and I could not wait to actually try this thing out in PvP. And so what I really want to discuss now is first of all how this thing is then going to change the weapon's base TTK, and actually if it even does so at all. Unfortunately, Explosive Shadow is not going to change the weapon's optimal headshot TTK. But what it is going to do is it's going to change the weapon's body shot time to kill, and it's going to make the weapon only require 5 body shots to actually down a Guardian in 1.33 seconds. The way in which it does this is very unique, and that's because as soon as you happen to land 5 body shots or headshots, either way it doesn't matter, this thing will then take all 5 of those explosive rounds and detonate them for 20 points of damage each. Adding all these explosive round damages together, it's then going to associate to 100 points of damage. And so as you guys can clearly see, all it's going to require is 5 body shots on a very consistent basis in order for this weapon's body shot time to kill to change to 1.33 seconds. However, Explosive Shadow has 2 more benefits, and the first one is that as soon as you happen to land 5 of those body shots, this radial detonation is always going to be consistent regardless of whichever kind of range engagement that you happen to be at. As long as you're getting those first couple of shots to land for approximately 20 points of damage each, that means that each one of these radial detonations is still going to guarantee 20 points of damage even if you happen to be at cross-map distances. In this respect, Explosive Shadow kinda acts like what Explosive Payload is on the better Devils from back in Year 1, and it still acts the same way as what it does now in Year 2, but in this instance, it's going to be very consistent, and it's going to almost guarantee you a 1.33 second TTK every single time that you're landing body shots. On top of this, Explosive Shadow detonations are always going to not just affect the Guardian that they are actually in, but they're going to affect the Guardians that they're around. As every single time that this detonation effect is going to occur, it's then going to create a radial damage effect that could potentially do 20 points of damage to surrounding Guardians. Now, as to precisely how close the other Guardians have to be standing in order for them to be affected by this radial effect, it's approximately 1 or 2 meters. And so in actuality, this effect really isn't going to come into play that often, but what I will say is that it certainly comes in handy in game modes like Control, where you have to capture a specific objective, as in these cases, that's when Explosive Shadow is really going to shine. Because what you can actually do on top of this is that if your team has more than 1 Malfeasance, you're going to be team shining with the exact same weapon, and under these exact circumstances, both of those bullets are then going to be detonating these slugs, and you're going to be adding on top of one another from each one of the separate Malfeasances. And so knowing that, you can clearly see that this thing is going to be a team shining monstrosity, especially if you happen to have a full fire team of 6, all using the Malfeasance. So as you guys can tell, this Explosive Shadow perk is probably one of the best overall perks in the game, especially when it comes to team shotting. Because not only is it going to give you a consistent 1.33 second body shot TTK, but it's also going to have absolutely 0 damage fall off whenever the radial detonations are going to occur, and in association with this, the weapon is then going to do radial damage effect, which can then be applied from not just one Guardian to the next, and finally, multiple Malfeasances can stack their slugs together from 2 different sources, and when that's the case, this thing is just going to team shot for decades and certainly make the enemy team a little bit salty. Understanding this, you guys can really see as to why the Malfeasance is going to be classified as an exotic weapon. But what really makes this thing a very consistent weapon in PvP as well as PvE is the weapon's base stats. And so as you guys can see right there, the weapon has a range factor at 46 out of 100, a stability factor at 82 out of 100, a reload speed once again at 82, an aim assistance at 50, and a recoil direction at 98. Of all the base stats that I just mentioned, there is not a single base stat here that is actually weak, and in actuality, almost every single one of them is superb, phenomenal, and glorious in every way, shape, and form that you can possibly think of, especially that recoil direction at 98 out of 100. The reason why I love that recoil direction is because the weapon literally has almost no recoil. And when you couple that with the weapon's stability factor at 82 and the weapon's aim assistance at 50, this thing is going to have a very consistent shot rhythm that is going to be extremely easy for you to pick up. And so once you do get the hang of this thing, I guarantee you that you're going to be getting that optimal TTK at 1 second and the body shot TTK at 1.33 almost every single time. As far as the weapon's other base stats go, I really want to put a focus and an emphasis here on the weapon's reload speed at 82 out of 100. And the reason why this is so important is because the weapon also has a magazine size of 15. And so with these two things combined, not only are you going to be able to have bullets for every single engagement, but you're going to have bullets pretty much every single time for a 1v2 and possibly even a 1v3. And that's what makes the weapon so ideal, not just for Clash, but for Control. And this is what allows the weapon to get those high kill numbers in the 40s and 50 ranges. The only downside to this weapon, at least in terms of its base stats, is its handling speed at 36. And the reason why I say this is because all of you know that I'm a very aggressive player, and so I need to have that very quick ADS time in order for me to be able to go from one Guardian to the next. With the Malfeasance, this is certainly not the case, and so a lot of the times I was finding myself having to aim down sight and continue to have that aim down sight from one guardian into the next, but nonetheless, once you get the hang of that playstyle, this thing is still going to be extremely consistent and down guardian after guardian after guardian. Now that you guys kinda got a sense of the weapon's pros and cons, via the perk called Explosive Shadow, but also from the weapon's base stats, the very next thing we've got to take a look at is the weapon's other very unique and similar intrinsic perks. The first one that we have right there is called Taken Predator, and Taken Predator states that this weapon gains bonus damage against taken enemies and gambit invaders. In all honesty, I'm actually a little bit disappointed by this particular perk, and that's because I wanted to see something that was going to affect the weapon, not just in a PvP/PvE environment via gambit, but more so in a competitive environment like that of Survival and Countdown. Maybe what Bungie could have done instead to be more applicable for that kind of PvP environment is to have additional damage on overshielded guardians, or possibly something where the radial effect damage is then going to be increased depending on the number of guardians that are around you. But nonetheless, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this down in the comment section below, and what other kind of very creative ideas that you guys might have, because we all know that Bungie could be listening, and if that's the case, this Malfeasance is only going to improve more and more and more. As far as the weapon's other perks go, it's got corkscrew rifling, extended magazine, and heavy grip. And so the one thing that I want to point out here is that heavy grip is going to increase the weapon's overall recoil control even more so than what it already does. And so this is going to help the weapon tremendously, not just in terms of the weapon's overall recoil direction, but its shot rhythm. And as you all know, I personally believe that the weapon's shot rhythm is the most important key factor into determining as to whether or not a weapon is viable in PvP. The Malfeasance passes this test with flying colors, and so if you were to ask me whether or not I think this thing is good, bad, or neither, I would say that it's good, but it's certainly not the best hand cannon in the game. And that's because weapons like the Trust, as well as the Luna's Howl, and even the Not Forgotten, are simply too powerful in terms of their 3-tapping potential, but also their consistency to hit guardian after guardian after guardian and get that optimal TTK almost every single time. Having said that, I want to state next that the Malfeasance is the best hand cannon in the entire game in a team shot environment, and that's very, very key, because you've got to be able to have multiple guardians who are all running the Malfeasance to be able to make this thing shine and truly bring it to its optimal potential. My friends, the devastation that you are going to incur is not going to be just in this realm, but it's going to emancipate every single guardian from their ghost and make them so unbelievably astonished that they're not going to know as to what direction that they just got annihilated, eradicated, and truly eviscerated from. With that, I'm very, very intrigued to hear your guys' thoughts on this thing down in the comment section below, and whether or not you like it, you even have it, you agree with my assessment or you don't. And so you can guarantee that I'm going to read all those comments 110%. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, Deislayers, great gaming, until next time.